Abracadabra! Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 is my favourite Harry Potter movie and is one of my ultimate favourite films of all time. This is one of the best movie finales I have ever seen. It's one of the most emotional movies of all time. I'm going to gush about this movie a lot in this review, and I absolutely love it. And we will be getting into spoilers if you've never seen Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. I'll be reviewing all the Harry Potter movies. Now, I watched this and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 right after one another, and it's the first time I've ever done that while I'm watching these movies, and it was definitely a more impactful experience and really added to the emotion of this film, because Deathly Hallows Part 1 was a brilliant setup emotionally for this film. And I was really glad they split this book into two parts, because I felt there's a lot to this story, and the first half is very slow and the last half is very fast, and that's exactly what these two parts are. Deathly Hallows Part 1 is a very, very slow-paced film, and this movie does not take a break, goddammit. It is so fast-moving, it is so riveting. Emotional beats hit, and it does not break in the pace for a single second of this film. It is utterly amazing. This movie is magnificent. All the character arcs feel fulfilled, and let's get into some of the details. This movie opens up with an extremely exciting sequence taking place straight after Deathly Hallows Part 1, after, of course, Dobby's death. Just this extremely entertaining scene where they have to break into Gringotts, and they let the dragon escape, and everything just starts off in a very exciting way, and it's very, very fun. Starting us off on this mission, finding the Horcruxes, reminding us what this adventure is, and it starts off in this very, very exciting and epic fashion. And then they head to Hogwarts, and Harry's getting these visions of Voldemort. Voldemort's sort of crippling, but the Horcrux destroying him are actually making him stronger. And of course now he's found the Elder Wand, which is part of the Deathly Hallows, the three Deathly Hallows that we learned about in the last movie in that beautiful animated sequence. And that film did all the setup. Deathly Hallows Part 1 did all the setup for what this finale is, so this movie could just get straight into it, doesn't have to explain anything, there's no exposition here, it's all visual and all getting straight into it, and they get to Hogwarts, Snape is the new headmaster, and I love the opening shot of this movie before the titles. You get the wonderful music playing, Lily's theme, which is one of the most heart-pounding pieces of music I've ever heard. The rest of the music in this film is gorgeous. They use a lot of John Williams music incorporated into there, which I was really happy they did that. And I love Lily's theme. It's really, really emotional and impactful. There's also some brilliant epic music in this film as well. But this opening where we just see Snape looking to the horizon, stood, and he's looking out the window of Hogwarts. He's the new headmaster. And there's just a moment there where you sort of realise what's going to happen to his character later on. And it's really emotional opening to this film, especially seeing what comes later for Snape, who was one of the best character arcs I've ever seen in this film, and one of the best revelations. And I'll get to that scene later, and the emotional impact of that. But they all get to Hogwarts, and all the kids are standing up to Harry. Voldemort's giving these very intense messages inside of everyone's heads. The audio is just so enthrallingly frightening. And there's one of these Horcruxes in the castle somewhere, and they have to look for it. And it's very intense and exciting. And that's what I love about this film. It doesn't really break. All the character arcs are concluded pretty darn well. Ron and Hermione's relationship is now settled in, I think, and they conclude them two characters in a good way. Harry has a lot to do in this film, and what they do with Neville here I'd like to talk about. In the first film, Dumbledore states that it takes a lot of courage to stand up to your enemies, but it takes even more to stand up for your friends, and in that movie he was talking about Neville standing up to his friends before they went off and found the Philosopher's Stone. In this film, Neville does the opposite. He stands up to his enemies. He's the one person that stands up to Voldemort and says that he's wrong. And that scene is just such a great, epic, chill moment from Neville. This quiet young boy who everyone sort of laughed at, sort of like the comic relief guy. And now he is just standing up for everyone. He whips that sword, he kills the snake. It's a great arc for Neville's character, and it mirrors perfectly his development in the first film to the last movie, and it's a character that doesn't need that development, and I'm great that he has it. I've always thought that maybe Draco, because of course he has that moment sort of like, oh, Harry saved me later on, in that amazing scene in the Room Requirement, that he would sort of stand up against Voldemort and say he's wrong, finally, and that would be, and that would sort of be his big arc, but you sort of really feel sorry for Draco being pulled into this world, and it's sort of extremely subtle at the end when he gives Harry that little smile at the train station. So I think they end his character as well as they could do. It does really, really good. giving the arcs fulfilled, making sure each of these characters feel like they've moved from one place from the start of this franchise to the last place they can possibly go. And I love that. And Neville is one of the prime examples here, but Harry is probably the most. And his development from all the way back in Philosopher's Stone when he first claimed this place and called it home, and now saving that place, it is truly emotional and it's riveting from beginning to end. There is not a single second of this movie that drags. My heart is pounding from beginning to end. There's a series of sequences, one after another, that build on the emotional weight of the last scene. It happens a lot in movie finales, and I've seen that used quite a lot after this, but Deathly Hallows Part 2 does the same. You get the scene where Snape dies and killed by Voldemort, because Voldemort needs to use the Elder Wand, and he thinks Snape was and of course Snape was the one that killed Dumbledore, but actually we learn later it was Draco that disarmed him, so it belonged to him, and Harry then disarmed Draco in the room requirement, and then, of course, now it's Harry's, and then Harry breaks at the end. Great little moment there. But you have that moment where Snape dies, and he says, "You have your mother eyes," and learning that Snape is the villain beforehand in The Half-Blood Prince, and then building to this sequence, realizing that he was actually protecting Harry the whole time, and then Harry goes into the room in Dumbledore's office, and he watches Snape's memories. And this is my favourite scene of the film. This is one of my favourite Harry Potter scenes, because it's the moment where you fully realise everything. And it's the moment where Harry realises that he must die. Either because he is a Horcrux, and if he dies, then it cripples Voldemort, and then it's just a snake left, and that will kill him. And this, you can see the distraught on Harry's face, but you can see the reason that there is no other way. And I love that, and Snape's realisation of that, Snape's love for Harry's mother, Lily, and that theme bursting, and Snape crying, and he was being there at Godric's Hollow when Harry got attacked by Voldemort. All of this building up, when Dumbledore says, "You've actually come to care for him," it's just like, oh my god, you're just retching, and it's one of the few movie scenes that forces me into full-on tears. I mean, full-on, like, crying, like, out of control. The music, the revelation, it's just too much to handle. And then straight after that scene, you have Harry saying goodbye to his friends Ron and Hermione, them realising it. They don't really talk that much, they have that realisation, and it's just really, really emotional. And then he goes into the forest, uses the Resurrection Stone to speak to all of his ghosts of his family, and they urge him on, and it's really beautiful. He speaks to Sirius, his parents, he speaks to Remus, and then we get to the scene where he then goes into the forest and is killed, and then he has that chat with Dumbledore, and this weird, strange scene, and this scene is really brilliant as well. We have this white room, it looks like the train station, and we learn that now the Horcrux version of Harry has been killed, and Dumbledore speaks to him, and he tells him, "Don't pity the dead, pity the living." Great message in this film. Harry doesn't really know if this is real, and Dumbledore says, it's just because it's happening in your head doesn't mean it's not real. It's really, really brilliant, because it shows that even if you think of something in your head, even if you are dreaming something and you think it could never happen, it means that it doesn't mean it's not real just because it's in your head. And I love that. That's such a brilliant message, but it also makes so much sense for the sequence. And then Harry wakes up after Neville gives his speech. And then after all these emotional beats are hit, we just get straight into the action. We get this immensely satisfying final conclusion in this riveting action sequence at the end. And it just becomes so satisfying when Voldemort turns to ash. Everyone is okay. Harry looks past at all the people that he's impacted over the years, all the people that have impacted him. And it's truly emotional. Some of the death scenes that happen off camera I wish didn't happen off camera, but I understand why they did, because it was focusing a lot on the trio. And they conclude in the beautiful shot where they're looking on the bridge. It's just wonderful. And then we cut to like 19 years later, and Harry's taking his own kids to Hogwarts. We get the awesome John Williams music swelling, and it's just ultimately satisfying. They could have not ended this saga in a most beautiful way. Harry Potter Deathly Hallows Part 2 is a riveting, heartwarming, heart-pounding, emotional finale, and is one of my favourite movies of all time. I really don't have a single flaw, issue, nitpick with this entire movie, and it's just amazing looking back at this entire franchise going, wow, all 8 of these movies are phenomenal. There's rarely a series of films that are just this perfect, with hardly a single misstep, and this is my favourite in the franchise. I still think Prisoner of Azkaban is the best directed and written as a standalone film, but this movie just packs such a big punch and makes everything feel so perfect. I love this movie. It is one of my favorite movies of all time. And of course, I'm gonna give Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 an A+. And I'm going to give this movie a 10 out of 10. It truly deserves it. Guys, let me know what you think of this film and the entire Harry Potter franchise. I really struggle to rank them. Not sure if I will be doing a ranking video, but you can check out my letterbox down below if you want to see my rankings or shorter reviews of other films. Guys, let me know what you think of this film down below and this entire franchise. I love it. And of course, thanks for watching, and subscribe for more, and goodbye.